There have been times in your life where you needed a hand. You needed someone to say, you can do it. Get up. You got this. Someone that supported you and saw your opportunity, your capability. Someone who believed in you, someone who had hope for you. And that person came alongside when you didn't even know it and brought you up. Now that you're there, you can be that person for others. Just like Greg Nickoli is at Pioneer Career Center, his story is next.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things. Now, podcasting from Spire to leaders in local communities like yours, here is Brian Leflock.
And let's get cooking. So I am really excited to share with you someone who shares a passion of mine. And I'll set that up in this way. Career education is so important. It's not just important for the kids that are going through it. It's not just important for the families that are in it. It's important for the businesses that need to take advantage of it. And I think the economy needs career education, both at the young adult stage and at the adult stage, to keep moving. And I've been a part of volunteering to serve career education for a long time, and I've met through some of those services our guest today. He's Greg Nickoli. He's the superintendent of Pioneer Career Center. It's in Shelby, Ohio. It's the 5th largest career center in the state, and perhaps most importantly, it is just doing a bang-up job of serving students well, so that businesses and communities can be served well. It serves an amazing purpose as well in families. And so you're going to hear that story from I think, an expert and a very wise man when it comes to career education. Greg Nickoli, welcome to A Dash of Grit.
Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for the invitation to be on your program and to participate in the podcast. I'm really excited to be here and to talk about something that I love and that I'm very passionate about. And so I just really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much.
You got it. I'm thrilled that we're talking. We've known each other for quite a long time. And sometimes when you're close, you forget your friends, and I'm like, wait a minute, I want to talk to Greg, because Greg, right now, there's a hiring crisis and businesses are stuck, and maybe people getting out of high school don't know what to do, and debt, and man, what a great time for career education and understand about it. And so, Greg, can you share with me, we're going to talk about some hard times and we're going to talk about some passion, but share with me a little bit about what you're proudest of with Pioneer Career Center, with yourself. Share with me what success looks like before we get dirty in the grit. Okay,
well, I would tell you this. Probably the one thing that I'm most proud of in my time here at Pioneer, and this is starting my 16th year here, I'm in the middle of my 7th as the superintendent here, but I think what I'm most proud about is the amount of expansion or growth that we've undergone in that time, in that 15 or 16 years. We've added programs, we've added different programs, not only in different fields or different pathways, but also for a variety of different students. I'm really proud of the fact that I can say without hesitation that we have something for every interest, every career interest across a wide spectrum of options. But we also serve students from I term it a depth of educational background. So we serve those students who are likely to be, they have those professional careers in mind. We have students who earn their associate's degrees right out of high school through Pioneer, but then we also serve those students who need a lot more support and a lot more help. And so it's kind of been a passion of mine to make sure that Pioneer offers a breadth of opportunities as well as a depth of opportunities, so that we have something for every student. And so I guess that's probably what I'm most proud of over the years.
And so why is that important? Because we're going to talk about what you had to go through to accomplish where you are now and where Pioneer Career Center is. But why is career education so important in your minds? Share with me what's so big about it.
It's really, in my mind, career education is just good education. It's helping students find their passion, find out what they love to do every day, and then helping them find out what career is available to them within that pathway. And we a lot of times when folks think about career education, career technical education, those types of things, they think about it's for kids who aren't going to college. And we view it here very differently. What we do is we help students find out what career path they want to be on, and then we help them figure out what the next step is. And sometimes that next step is directly into the workforce. Sometimes that next step is to a 2-year institution or some specialized credentialing, and sometimes it's to a 4-year institution. I use the we have a couple of programs that are in the educational field, to use a good example. And those, in order to be employed as a public school teacher, you need a 4-year degree. That's really the only way that you can do that. So some careers require that more advanced education, and others don't. Others offer opportunities to go right into work right away. So I guess for me, it's about helping students identify what those career goals are. We refer to it as the light at the end of the tunnel. What is your light at the end of the tunnel? And then helping kids get to that light.
And it's really not about financial or economics or their status in life, the family economies. It's about what are these young adults going to do next, and how can we prepare them for a wonderful and contributory future?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think you've mentioned it earlier that, we're in dire need of a stronger workforce, especially in this part of Ohio. And so I feel like Pioneer and career centers like us are at the heart of improving our economy and improving the lives of our families, because we do offer opportunities not only to go right into the workforce, but to finance an education very economically. I'm for those careers and those students that want to pursue advanced education, post-secondary education. I'm all about that. I've got probably more degrees than most people need at my age, but I'm also about doing it as economically as possible. As I said, the programs that we have where students can earn an associate's degree while they're still in high school. The key to that I didn't mention earlier is that's done free of charge to the family. Really the only cost is for the student to get back and forth to the classwork or to the classroom, because it's typically it's on a college campus rather than a high school campus. So when kids can benefit that way, families benefit, our school districts benefit, and most importantly, our communities benefit.
Yep. It's a full cycle where if you're doing your thing and the kids are doing their thing and the businesses are doing their thing, the communities thrive and everyone grows. And so you didn't just take this position. You earned this, and the Pioneer Career Center is better off because of it. And so this show is about grit. It's about hardships and struggles. I am convinced that yours shaped you into the kind of work that you do now. So let's talk about that. Can we talk about some defining moments in your life that have helped to build the success that you're enjoying today?
Most definitely. I'm always happy, and I share this with our students. I try to get into our career tech labs or some of our academic classrooms and kind of share where I'm from, because I didn't come from a family that had a lot of money and was one of the name families in my home community. I'm from Norwalk. I'm just up Route 250 there out of Ashland. In Norwalk, so I'm not really a local guy, but close enough.
It's close enough.
But I grew up in a family. In some ways, it was always a very wonderful family. 2-parent family and 4 sisters, all younger. So I was the oldest of 5. So there were 7 of us, but unfortunately, the workforce at the time was not economically advantageous to my family, meaning we didn't grow up with a lot. There were a lot of times when we had to do without. Had 2 parents at home. My mom worked a little bit of some part-time jobs. My dad worked when jobs were available. He worked in a factory. He was a welder for a period of time, but at the auto industry in the 70s, when I was a kid, wasn't always stable. A lot of economic issues in the country, in the United States. And so our typical economic cycle was Dad would be working for a few months, and then he might be laid off for a month or two. And so unemployment benefits and those types of things were a way of life. The food stamps, for those of you that are old enough to remember what food stamps are, that type of, I think we call them EBT cards now. Those types of benefits and are not benefits. Those types of government help were a part of my life. I can remember going to the store with my mom. I've used this example. She wasn't, at that time there was very much a stigma attached to food stamps and those types of things. So she'd go to the store at late at night, as late as you could go at night in the pre-24-hour grocery store options, as late as you could go, because she didn't want people to see us on food stamps. Yep. And it was just kind of the way I grew up with. And it was one of those situations that a lot of people in our area are in. And it's just kind of, I reflect and understand that economic family situation.
So when you were going through that and mom was feeling bad about it and you saw the ramifications of it, how was that making you feel when you can remember it forming you? How was that making you feel at that time?
At that time or now?
At that time. I'm wondering what was going through your head, kind of what the stigmas, what was happening in your life, because these kids are going through the same things now.
Right.
And so I'm wondering how that was making you feel then.
I would tell you that at that time, and I can remember back to my middle school years. So that 11, 12, 13-year-old time frame, you kind of felt as though, I don't know how this is going to work for me. There was a lot of I would almost categorize it as fear. What's going to happen to me? Mm-hmm. And that's where, when you ask if I'd be interested in being on the show, I most definitely, because I don't know how it came. I do know how it came about. It came about through the influence of a lot of really positive individuals in my life, but where you develop that grit. I love the term grit. In fact, some of our teachers a few years ago, just about maybe 3 years ago now, did a little book study on a book that talked about grit. And because our goal here is to instill grit in our students. Yeah. And so when you come from that family background, family dynamic where, money is not always a sure thing. And your family doesn't necessarily have all the things that maybe some of your friends do or some other kids that you go to school with that they have. You have a little sense of hopelessness and a sense of fear about what the future holds. And so I look at this program and the term grit as the key to changing our communities, because if we can develop a sense of grit and overcoming obstacles in our students and our high school students and our middle school students, then I think we're going to go a long way to improving the economic outlook for our businesses and our communities as a whole.
But in those formative years for you, what was that sort of grit? How were you able to overcome that? There is a cycle where kids just say, okay, well, this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
And so what got you out of that and gave you grit to get those tires some traction and moving forward?
I would tell you it's the people that I encountered on a daily basis in the public schools,
Teachers.
Teachers. Yep. Teachers.
Good teachers. Principals.
Those folks. Yep. In fact, the person that led me into education is somebody that I'm still friends with today. Actually, he's if you're from the Crestview area, you might remember him. He was your football coach for 2 years. I think following Lee Owens. For our Crestview fans and listeners, a gentleman by the name of Steve Gilbert. He came over, left Crestview, and came over to Mansfield Senior, and then made his way up to Tiffin Columbian High School. I think he's in the Ohio High School Football Coaches Hall of Fame. Yep. But he was a teacher, and I was a high school football player, and he was one of my football coaches, and he truly kind of guided me throughout my high school career towards, look, you can do this. It was kind of to use today's terminology, you got this. Yep. Because, I'm a first generation college student, first generation college graduate. So the whole college thing was not really in my future at a younger age. It just wasn't something that my family did, and so to seek a more professional career was not something that I really saw for myself. But he kind of, provided that inspiration and that idea that, wait a minute, you can do this if you want to. And so, I kind of went down that road of, I'd really like to get into education because I know what he did for me. And I'd really like to be able to do that for other people and for other kids. And so it's kind of been from a very, very early age, that 17, 18, 19-year-old Greg Nickoli from way back when has kind of always had that passion or that desire to help other people because somebody did it for me.
It's so important that all teachers, not just teachers, anybody that interacts with young people at all, whether you're an employer or a manager, but man, when you interact with someone, take advantage of that moment because you're changing a life. Yeah. And Steve changed yours. I've got people like that in my life that made a significant difference that I wish I could go and say thank you now, but they're not here any longer. They're just so strong. Right. I'm wondering though, at that age, you've still got your cycle. and you've still got, and these kids today, again, they still have that cycle of, I don't even know what the future holds for me.
Right.
What were you able to hold on to? The teacher said you can do it. The future said, come on, come get it. And yet you were in this spot. How did you maintain this drive to actually overcome those hurdles in front of you? What did you hold on to?
Well, I think probably the key trait, personality trait, if you will, that someone has to have, or that I think I have, is a willingness to be patient. That you don't have to start out at the top. You have to just be willing. The terminology that we use a lot today is you just have to be willing to embrace the grind. Life and professional advancement is a grind. And you're not going to start out at the top, and you're not going to be the boss in a year. It's been a long journey to get to be a superintendent, to achieve that goal. I didn't start out there, and there were many opportunities, many times throughout my professional career when I thought, I'm the best person for that job, but it went to somebody else for whatever reason. It wasn't in the stars for it to happen at that time, but eventually it did happen, because just kind of being willing to show up to work every day, be on time, do your best every single day, and realizing that your best might not be your A+ game every day. It might only be an A- on some days, but it's never a D or an F day. You don't have those days. You just embrace that grind of getting up and going to work every day and making every day as good as it can possibly be, knowing that sometimes you really don't want to do that. And that's I think that kind of plays into the grit, just getting up every day and going to work and doing what you need to do, and just being patient that, hey, it might not happen today, but it could happen tomorrow. And if I keep going, if I keep plugging away, eventually I'll reach that goal of whatever it happens to be for a person.
Yeah. And see, but therein lies the rub, because grit is what you throw into the tires when they're spinning.
Yeah.
And you can only push that gas pedal so much and let those tires spin so long until you have to do something different.
Right.
And you just can't keep going. So were there times in your life, and I'm looking to you to maybe put some hope into some folks that might be struggling right now. Were there times in your life where you just thought, this hurdle is just too big for me. This one isn't going to make it. I'm not going to get past this. And if so, and I assume so, how were you able to overcome it? What were you able to do to get past those really tough spots?
Well, there were, I can think of a couple of different situations, again, where I started to feel like I was spinning my wheels.
Yep.
And I would say probably the thing that got me through that, again, was taking a step back and maybe just having that conversation with that person that I knew was a positive. I knew there, as I said, whether it was a teacher or a former teacher, as I got into my professional life, that I could go to and say, hey, this is going on or that's going on. And they would be almost that cheerleader for me. And again, that's kind of how I view teachers as much as we're educators and we're to impart knowledge or we're to impart skills, at the same time, we have to be cheerleaders for our students and for our former students, because it happens at Pioneer a lot. We have kids that'll come back and they've had a great deal of success, but they've reached that point, and sometimes they just need a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a pat on the back, and a reminder that, hey, keep plugging away and you can get there. And again, I would reach back or think back to former educators who provided that for me. So sometimes I think sometimes we think we're alone in the world and we're the only person going through a particular circumstance. And rarely is that the case. And so when we can take back or we can take a step back, learn to maybe ask for a little help, go to those people that we know were in our corner before, and just kind of a little bit of a refresher on the motivation side of things, it really helps us overcome obstacles.
And so now you're at this position, you've overcome those challenges. You've put yourself in a position where you can impact others and help them through their challenges and accomplish great things. This might be hard for you to talk about, but can you give me an example of when you've been the grit or you've been the leader, maybe even not you or even the organization as a whole, the district, that where someone has really overcome their own hurdles because you were able to impact them in some way?
I can think of a particular young man, and for confidentiality purposes, I won't name his name.
Of course.
I can use his first name. His first name was Alec. And Alec and I, when it was while I was here at Pioneer, he was one of our students, and I was not the superintendent at the time. I was in a different role. And Alec and I had cause to cross paths frequently, and it wasn't typically a very, very positive experience for either one of us.
Right.
He had his way of thinking and doing things, and I thought it should be different. And so we frequently crossed paths. Like I said, in a less than pleasant way, I guess is probably the best way to say it. I had to do all the discipline here at Pioneer, and it just, it's not always pleasant.
No one wanted to go to Mr. Nickoli's office.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I got you.
But I guess one of the things that I do that I would say about myself is I'm kind of I would say a clean slate guy. We do what we got to do, whether it's some sort of discipline or whatever. And when you walk out the door, the next time I see you in the hallway, I'm going to say hi and shake your hand or pat you on the back or whatever. That's one of my things that I'm pretty good at.
Yep.
So I don't hold grudges or those kinds of things. So Alec, we had our series of things that were going on. But one thing I would say about Alec is he was a very, very hard worker. I mean, but unfortunately for Alec, he didn't come from a particularly stable family life. He had some issues that kind of got in his way, and he ended up living on his own his senior year of high school. And so just so happened that at that time, I was able to, I learned of a couple of career opportunities, job opportunities through Pioneer here, in some that were very financially beneficial, and I knew would be good for him. And so he had actually graduated and was, I don't know, it was probably a year or two after he graduated, and I saw these job opportunities come available. And we had already here at Pioneer made them known to all of our students. So everybody that wanted one of those jobs had one, and they were still looking for more people. And I couldn't tell you why, but I gave Alec a call and said, "Hey, I know of a job. I can get you an interview. You show up." I said, "Are you still willing to show up every day and do what you need to do?" That type of mindset. And we got him employed, and he's actually still employed there today and doing well. Married, children, those types of things. And it's just I wouldn't necessarily have given you have said that would have. I expected that to be an outcome for him back when he was in high school, but sometimes you just need a little, like I said, a little extra boost, and somebody that I don't even know why I thought of him, quite frankly. It just seemed like his name came to me, and that it would be a good fit.
Well, that's how that works. I'm interested. This is after you guys were butting heads a lot, and it was never a good situation for either of you. And then out of the blue comes a call from Mr. Nickoli. What was his reaction to that? I bet it was more positive than we might be led to believe.
Yeah, very, very positive.
See?
He was working a minimum wage job at the time, and just kind of making ends meet and as best he could. And so. Yeah, a very positive reaction, and to this day, I would tell you when we do cross paths, we're pretty close. It's just and that's the thing that if I could say anything to your audience, those of you that whether you're just out of school, whether you're a new graduate or you graduated like I did 30 years ago, if you have an opportunity to thank your teacher or that special person who made a difference in your life, make sure you do that, because quite frankly, it doesn't happen nearly enough. And we're all guilty of not saying thank you for those people that helped us overcome an obstacle or get through a tough situation. And I would tell you that those are my proudest moments, are when kids come back and say, "Hey, if it hadn't been for, this school or this person or you, if it happened to be me," those are the proudest moments I have. And that makes any of the bad days well worth it.
That's why you show up. And it's, the reason he loved to hear from you, and the reason you responded to Steve back in those days, and the reason we impact others is because we love them. Yeah. And you loved him, and love isn't always easy. It's not always kind and fun. Right. And it doesn't mean we're best friends. It means I care about you. I tell people that I work with, look, if I'm hard on you, it's because I care about you. If I didn't care about you, you can do whatever you want. I don't care, but I do care. And I know you care too. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. There's a saying in education that, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And, that you have to establish that relationship and be able to do that. And that's, so that's the key to anything, just kind of follow, the more you follow up, the more you get to know students, kind of outside the classroom. I'll be honest with you, it's one of the things I like least about my job as a superintendent is I spend far less time with kids and with our students than I ever did in any other position. I have far less opportunity to interact. And that's kind of the lousy part of this job is I spend more time doing the business side of school as opposed to the education side of school.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that a little bit. What's the future look like? Again, there's no time for it to go away. There's always a hurdle to cross. And so I'm wondering at Pioneer and in your own development, what's next? What hurdles are lying in the future we have to overcome?
Well, here at Pioneer, we always have, or we try to have a growth mindset, and we try to evolve. And so we are in internal conversations here about ways that we can offer, whether we can allow a program to evolve into something that's more relevant to our business needs here and to our student interests here, as well as are there additional programs that we can offer, or can we offer our programs to different, I would say a different age level of students? Is there something, and is there an opportunity to offer programming to a younger age group, or is there an opportunity to offer programs to adults? More, we have adult education here, so are there programs that we can offer to adult students that will benefit both our students and our local businesses? So I think we're very much always in a growth mindset, and I think you have to be that way. You have to constantly evolve. If we don't do that, we'll kind of fall by the wayside and we'll become far less relevant, and they won't want me in this seat, in this office anymore. They'll need somebody who has that mindset. So, that's kind of what we're always looking for, ways that we can serve more students or serve the students that we have in a more beneficial way, I think is kind of where we're at.
And this might be a trick question just as a final question. If you don't want to answer it, it's okay, because it might be a slippery slope. What is the cure for today's hiring crisis, either today's crisis, but what lives in the future? It's real, and it's causing the economy to slow, and it's causing all kinds of things that shouldn't be done. And the workforce just isn't responding to the need. Right. What's the cure? How can that be changed?
In my role, I do a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of listening, watching podcasts, listening to podcasts in the car, those types of things. I do a lot of that, and I think our businesses who are in need of employees are catching on to this in terms of providing benefits. And when I say benefits, I don't necessarily mean the typical insurance and those types of things. Employment benefits that our younger employees value.
Things that are relevant today.
Yes. I'll give you an example. We had a business, excuse me, a manager of an area business who came into my office a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, and said, "Hey, we're in desperate need of employees. How can we get in to meet your students that are in the appropriate programs, et cetera?" And he and I sat in my office right here, just at a table in the back here, and kind of brainstormed some ideas to help him recruit students. And I liken it to, I'm a sports guy, I love my sports, so I liken it to the college recruiting process. When Ryan Day brings kids onto the campus at Ohio State, sure, he talks about, he does a couple of different things. And I don't know Ryan Day. I've never met Ryan Day. But
you can
I
just
know
tell.
I know what he does. What he does is he talks to those potential recruits, those potential Ohio State Buckeyes, about where he can take them. If you come to Ohio State, this is what your future could be. And while you're here, this is what your life will look like. And does he talk about classes? Yeah, they probably talk about classes. Does he bring, some professors in? Probably for some kids and certain families. But he talks more about the experience that they're going to have while they're there, and what the future could hold. And of course, obviously, if you're talking about Ohio State football, you're talking about a life in the NFL and those types of things as the future, and what it's like playing on Saturday afternoons in front of 110,000 fans and those wonderful things. But it's more experiential. So this employer that came in to visit, as we sat down, I said, if I were you, I would create an experience for the students that will come over. And instead of you coming to us, let us bring those students to you. So we took a group of, I think it was probably 18 or 20 students over, and they got to see, this is the equipment that we have to work on. This is what your day will be. And they brought in newer employees who were closer in age, and they kind of showed them what a day in the life is like. And they let their younger employees, their newer employees, kind of share what their experiences were like. So they're able to provide that this is what a day in the life is like. And then also, here are the opportunities for advancement. If that's something that interests you, here's where you could be, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So they provided those two key factors. And I think our employers in the area are starting to figure out that it's not always about the almighty dollar. It is to a degree, of course, but if you can provide a really positive work environment that our younger employees enjoy, that's critical. They have to, that's just the mindset of our young people today. And trust me, when you're my age, you kind of, I talked about, I want to work, I've been a 60-hour-a-week guy for 30 plus years, almost 40 years now. That's what I'm used to doing. Not everybody is wired that way today. So they want to know, what's my day going to look like today or tomorrow, and what's the future? What are the future opportunities for growth? And as I said, I think our local employers are getting that. They're starting to understand that. And they're starting to recruit employees the same way Ryan Day recruits his 5-star football players.
Yeah, the day of putting up the sign that says now hiring, $1,000 cash signing bonus. I mean, everyone's doing the same things. How can you make your brand different where people want to
stand out?
There are enough employees to make your business work, but they could go to someone else just as easily, and that doesn't help the situation. So
exactly.
Great advice and helpful.
To quote one of my favorite baseball movies, I think it's Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come, is not true right now. No. It may be true in the future, but it's not true right now.
No. And if you say it, they won't believe you. And if you wish it, it won't happen. I mean, you got to make the culture stand out.
Exactly.
So that's the future. So Greg, I tell you what, folks, if this man is wise, and if you're struggling as a business owner trying to fill spaces and you need to learn more, Greg can help you. If you're inspired by the mentorship idea, perhaps Greg would like to talk to you. Regardless, I'm sure he won't mind if you reach out. And so Greg, if someone wanted to talk with you about all things business related and career related, how would they go about doing that?
I'd be happy to take a phone call, and I always give out my direct office line. So when you call, I'm the person that answers. You don't have to work through several secretaries. So I can give you that number right now, 419-347-7744. And my direct extension is 42102. And I'd love to take a phone call. Anybody that has not been at Pioneer, especially if you've been here, but maybe haven't been here for many years, I'd love to invite you over, show you the facilities, especially during the school year, let you see our kids in action. It's a really remarkable school. Obviously, I love it. I've been here a long time. I don't plan to work anywhere else ever. And so I would invite anybody who has an interest in kind of seeing what we have to offer here, as well as getting to know our processes for recommending kids for jobs. Those, if you're an employer and looking for employees, give me a call, 419-347-7744, extension 42102, and we'll set you up.
Fantastic. And Greg, we talked a little bit about the tough love aspect of things, and I want to give a quick shout out for Spire here. Along the same lines, we do marketing for businesses and organizations, and the tough love aspect, in my mind, is we call it no sugarcoating. We're going to let you know. We're going to let you know when it's working, when it's not working, what needs to be done, what it's going to cost. We're going to lay it all out there so that you can have a really good understanding of what the future looks like. I think it's only fair that you do that. And I think if you find a marketing company that just tells you the good stuff, where anybody
Right.
can do that. And so that's Spire. If you're interested in branding and marketing and strategic direction, we are Spire Marketing, and we can help you from a point of view of no sugarcoating. If nothing else, the world's got enough yes men, so we won't be that. So if that interests you, we're at spiread.com. My name is Brian Lefelock. I am the director of sales at Spire, and thank you to Greg Nickoli for sharing, not just for sharing your story today, but for being a light for so many young people for so many years, and I bet for years to come in some way or another. You're an inspiration, and I know most people don't know it at the time, but I thank you for being that, and I thank you for being on our show.
Thank you again for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and you brought back some really fun memories.
Good. I'm glad. Greg, the Dash of Grit show does happen once a week. You're welcome to take a look. I think there's some old friends of yours on the show. And folks, if you want to take a listen too, we are at dashofgrit.com on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, or wherever you find your podcasts. So until the next time, stay gritty and win the day.
This is a Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things.